Into this week's movie, Parasite came out in 2019. Nick, this was your pick. Take it away.
Well, I guess I know it's a 6-year-old movie. Where are we at on spoilers?
Well, I mean,
No,
Stibbs just kind of gave away the
There's
ending.
no such thing as spoilers in this. We used to have to do spoilers because Kent would talk about movies that were coming out today.
Wow, I'm happy we don't do those anymore.
This is a 6-year-old movie.
If you haven't watched it by now, it's your fault.
Well, I wasn't sure if it was just one of those movies. You know, like some movies are old, but you don't want to say anything about it because it's a
movies.
good. No,
By the way, this thing won the Oscar and did $100 and some million at the box.
Okay,
people who wanted to see it have seen it.
Yeah. Some of them, until this week.
Till today.
And by the way, it's available on HBO now if anyone wants to watch it. We just got a text from somebody saying it's not on Hulu anymore.
I watched it on HBO.
Watch it on HBO. Nick, take it away.
Parasite is a film about a family of grifters that end up working their way into doing various jobs for a very rich family, and they later find out that one of the previous workers for this family was also just living in the basement in this bunker of this family's house with her husband because her husband was on the run because he owed a bunch of money.
Well, real quick, not to correct you, she wasn't living down there.
Her husband was.
Her husband was living.
I guess I'd assumed that she was down there with him.
But she was
living in the house. Either way,
was she living in the house?
I assumed that she wasn't.
That's a good question. Now
I guess we never know. Sure. Sorry, Nick. I didn't mean.
Anyway, this grifting family moves in with these guys. They get tangled up with a previous family that had worked for this family, and then murders happen.
Murders do indeed happen. I think that's a pretty good representation of this movie. Kent, I told this to Stibbs. I told this to Nick earlier today. Before you go, I've seen this now 4 or 5 times. Saw it in theaters back in 2019. I think that this is the best movie of the last decade. Rewatching it again, I was once again blown away by how good this movie is, how creative it is, how interesting it is, how it keeps your attention the entire time. What a great movie.
I would agree with it. I would agree with that. It's, if not the best, it's certainly one of the best. When I did my 10-year best movie of the best movies of the last 20 years, when our ground zeros are entertainment tab, and it hit its 20-year anniversary, and I did the best 10 movies of those 20 years, and it was in my list. So I put it on there. Absolutely. What I wrote in last, what would that be? 6 years ago?
Wow.
Bong Joon-ho's audacious new picture, Parasite, begins as a satiric class conflict fable, morphs into a pointed grifter tale, then explodes into world gone crazy darkness that will leave you stunned, shaken, and amazed by a masterwork from a master filmmaker.
Yeah. It's like multiple movies in one.
It's a I almost said genre-less, but it's a multiple genre film.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
You have like the first hour, which is you're learning about this family and you're rooting for them, even though like they're some pretty bad people. They are some scumbags.
Yes, they are.
But also the rich people. I mean, like, not the
You're
best.
learning about the class.
Yeah.
The class.
They're not good. There are no good people in this movie.
No.
That's
I found myself. Oh, sorry, Kent.
Go ahead. That's part of the reason it works so well, is there are no good guys. Who are the good people? The grifter family, the people in the basement, or the none?
Yeah. I found myself laughing more this time than ever at the head of the household, if you will, of the rich family, and just some of the comments that he says and the way in which he talks about his back seat and what they're doing to his back seat.
It's crossing a line.
So you have the first hour, and then you have the second hour, and that's when the basement starts coming into play, and starting with the night where they're all drinking and what in the world's going to happen
into
next.
a little more of a thriller, a mystery of who's what and where and why.
And Ken, I'm not the first person to make this comparison, but that scene when they go from high on top of the hill all the way back home, where like the visual elements of that, and like
when they're walking, you mean when they run away?
And it's raining, but they start up here and they are literally going down into the depths of hell, and they get home and it's flooded and
all their stuff is
poops flying out, and then you have the last the last act of the movie, which is the party and everything that unfolds there. It's just, again, it just moves at such a great pace, and the characters are also memorable.
You will be unbeknownst to you, this film in Korea and I don't speak Korean, but there's a Korean phrase that means basically gone to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they described it in Korean. So you're right on it there, Josh.
You're talking about that kind of visual of going from the top to the bottom. The cinematography itself in this, I remembered and then also noticed again right away, like when they're giving the tour of that house. It's a very like Art Deco-y kind of house. Very. Can you hear that?
Yes, I think that's Kit's phone.
Oh, okay.
That's my phone. I'm getting message bombarded. As soon as we start talking, here they come.
That house is awesome.
I was looking at Nick,
It's a
but
great
yeah,
house.
but the shots they would do with it, like down hallways, and like it was beautifully shot, or down the streets when they would look at, like it reminded me of that. I'm not going to think of it. There was another. Screw it. I'm not going to think of what it is. We'll talk about it in the break.
'Kay.
But beautiful looking movie,
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous looking movie. I love the way.
Interestingly, part of the reason they were able to do that house was constructed for the movie.
Really.
Really?
Yeah, they built the house for the movie, and they also had to build the basement place. It was all on.
I was just going to ask, is that in the house as all of that, or is that a set?
Both.
Okay.
So they built the house for the movie, and then some of it was soundstage, and then the one in the basement was 100% a set because of the flood.
Mhm.
You use a natural setting and then fill it full of poop. You know,
I adored this movie. So this was my first time seeing this movie. I've wanted to watch it for years. I just never did for whatever reason. But I had avoided spoilers because I knew that.
So you didn't know anything that was going to happen?
I didn't know anything.
God, that's awesome.
Great.
I was able to go into this movie completely fresh, and it blew my mind.
Mhm.
And I don't know, because I knew that there was a twist in the middle at some point. That's as many spoilers as I've gotten about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure what the twist was going to be. I wasn't expecting people living in a bunker.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting some kind of weird monster demon thing to happen.
Oh, so you thought it might get a little supernatural?
Yeah, but I like this better.
It's cool. There's twist, and then there's another twist, and then there like maybe not twist, but surprising. Like you're not expecting.
I would say there too.
People to get murdered in the lawn, like
when they go in the basement is one, and then there's the other one when the killing starts. You don't expect that to happen.
And then another one when the dad ends up in the bunker.
In the bunker,
You think he's dead.
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, you assume he is. They move forward in time. Everyone's doing stuff.
Well, and then
he ran away.
Not talking about the literal ending of the movie, but like there's this whole like a letter is being written from the son to
I
the
totally
dad,
forgot about all that.
and you think like, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten. Does it end like this? And you have to imagine was this a dream or not? And then there's the one final scene. It's like, nope, never mind. It's just a letter, and so
it was a dream.
Probably never going to see him again.
Yeah.
Is what the answer is at the
well,
end. Of that.
they left that ending open ended, right? On the sense of I'm going to work to get the house kind of thing.
Yeah, good luck.
Somebody calculated it'd take he'd have to work for at the wages he was getting 300 years to buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably wasn't going to happen.
I'll live a life of crime.
Well, he said he was going to school. He was going to learn.
You know, the other thing I liked. So I think the story of the what do we want to the grifting father, where I feel like he throughout so much of the movie is like this really like positive guy and is having a good time. But when the conversations first come up about the smell and how he has a smell, and then there's the scene where he's laying underneath the coffee table and like they focus on him specifically and his daughter's looking over at him and you just see,
you can feel the embarrassment next to his kids.
He's breaking. And when he's at the store and then when he's driving the wife home and she suddenly has to roll down the window, and then the final line at the very end, which totally sets him off. Like,
what is it that was said again?
At the very end, it
had something to do with that.
Yeah, because he tossed the keys. Yeah, what was the line?
It was something to do with, I don't know why it got brought up then, which is why I'm asking.
Did he bring it up, or did the guy did he make a face? Did he recoil when he tried to get the
That's
keys?
what it was. He bent over to grab the keys, and he like.
That's right. And then that.
Oh, and I think
he rolled over the. Yeah.
He said something about the stench of probably the dead.
And the first time that comes up when they're in that basement, did you see all of them?
All of them are smelling. Yeah,
were smelling themselves. It was like, ooh,
because
I honestly don't remember that. This is probably the third or fourth time I've seen it, and I just noticed that last night or yesterday.
Yeah, and the little boy walks up to all of them at that one point. He's like, "You smell like so and so,"
and also that's how this person smells.
Yeah,
astute little kid.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I was surprised that the family all went back for that party because I get that they kind of
I
felt
mean,
like
they
they
have
had
to.
to, but at the same time, if I had gotten out of the living room with they did after all of that, I
Yeah.
never would have gone back.
Well, I mean, part of it is so the mom has to because she's the maid.
Right.
The dad has to because he's the driver. The son wants to get laid, so he's
Sure.
kind of has to. And then after that, I mean,
And they all want money.
and they
All
all
of this is based on they need money.
Yeah.
all want money.
The one thing I was mentioned earlier, the like kind of not issue I have, but more question.
Oh yeah,
We see how rich these people are, how nice their home is.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, this was what you said 6 years ago, so maybe it wasn't as prevalent, but I'm pretty sure it was. Around here in America, that is now, almost everybody has cameras all over their home, in and out. I was kind of surprised, like when they went on the camping trip right before they came back and they're hiding and everything, and they're just like partying in this house. I found myself thinking
that they would have cameras
do these people
inside
not
the
have,
house.
like any sort of Ring doorbell camera inside the home.
Interesting.
Like if you have social media and stuff, how many TikToks, Instagram things are of like stationary cameras when the
Inside.
dog jumps up and does something funny
good
or the
point.
baby falls or whatever. Like everyone has a camera somewhere.
I mean, I
the
guess-
only camera they have is on their front door,
and the
and it was
she
and
cut
across
it.
the street.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know, Ken. Maybe you can answer this better.
And that's why I said, is it a?
Maybe
I
that's
know
why-
you winced at my cultural thing.
No.
Is that a thing that doesn't happen elsewhere?
Or I wonder if this is right before that stuff is way more ubiquitous. You know, like having cameras in homes for pets, especially. Like
it didn't totally take me out of this movie
Yeah.
and ruin it.
But if
for
you
me.
make it 5 years
but
later-
I was like,
yeah,
do
they're
these
rich.
rich ass people not have a single camera?
It's a good point.
They had cameras all over in the house. You couldn't have made the movie.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I mean, that comes, the Bong Joon-ho, who is the director, he wrote this thing, number one, and he's a great filmmaker, by the way. I would highly recommend his monster movie, The Host, which came out, I think,
06.
I was going to say, and then he followed that with Snowpiercer.
I saw that one in theaters.
I did too.
Snowpiercer's
Expecting, I have no expectation. That movie is awesome.
I
Ken,
love
have you seen Memories of a Murder or Memories of Murder as well?
I have not.
The
That one
Host
I
looks
have
like it's
not
on
seen.
Amazon.
And he has a new movie that's going to come out this year.
Yeah, and it's gotten pushed back a bunch, so I'm really curious to see what happens when it finally comes out.
It got COVIDed.
Mm.
Is why it got pushed back.
That looks awesome.
And it looks, at least from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be way out there.
And he did Okja, which I believe you picked all the way back at the
forgot
beginning
he
of
did
the
that
movie
one.
club.
I didn't realize that he had done Snowpiercer. I love
Mhm.
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer rocks.
The thing I was thinking about Snowpiercer, the guy who had to put his arm outside and it froze. And
That
then
was
they
like the
broke
first
it
scene,
off.
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
I saw that. Me and my mom went to that knowing nothing about it. No, I
Oh,
was
boy.
A lot of class movies.
awesome.
A lot of class movies.
Yep.
He very much has commentary on class.
That's his thing, is the
Mhm.
class.
It's a good bit.
And,
The only other thing go ahead, Kent. Sorry.
and this one is probably the most overt,
Definitely.
Oh.
I mean, the literal ups and downs of the.
Although Snowpiercer literally front and back,
That's
like
true.
it gets worse and worse and worse the farther back you get. But
yeah,
this one's probably a little more straight up overt.
Yeah, upstairs, downstairs.
Screw these rich people.
And he called this an upstairs downstairs movie.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You're
great.
right on it today. You're hitting the.
I love this damn movie, Kent,
Smart
man.
people,
Like,
Kent.
Good movie.
I'm honestly like, maybe I'll watch it again this weekend. Like, it is
was
so
talking to a buddy
good.
about. I was like, man, I just rewatched it for this thing. I was like, I forgot how good it was, and he said he hadn't seen it yet, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you doing with your life?
Also, I love that damn house. Like when the sun is
It
out,
is so
just
cool.
laying in the grass, and it's like that is the life.
It's a
right
beautiful
I
there.
love
house.
the imagery of like how pristine that yard was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The entire movie.
Yep.
It was perfectly manicured.
Yep.
Everything about it, and then just the absolute chaos that ensues in the final
Yeah.
scene is so cool.
Well, the other thing I liked was how the furniture was so they could roll underneath it.
Yes.
Mhm.
That had to have been thought out the second he wrote the script, I guess.
It
Yeah.
has to be high enough where you can roll under it, but also like wide enough where everyone can fit under it.
Yes.
But also the angles to which the parents, who are also focused on their son and having
And-
sex,
Yep.
won't see underneath there.
Is there ever any explanation as to what the light switches, why those light switches are in the bunker?
No.
No,
I'm a little curious about that. Like there's literally just 3 light switches for those 3 things. That's
when you first watch it, you
interesting.
think like, oh, it's just they're on
It's flickered.
settings,
Yeah.
you know, because it follows
Boop,
him.
boop, boop.
Yeah,
Yep.
but then they flicker.
I think maybe
too.
it was just for the payoff of that joke.
I mean,
it was
is a
kind of
good-
funny.
It is a good payoff.
Well, it's not. I mean, but then it's also the end of the movie. That's how they're communicating.
It's Morse code.
That's how they got out.
And
Like,
it's how the guy who's down there is trying to
Exactly.
communicate as well.
who, by the way, that's the only other thing I'd written down. That guy is awesome. His character was terrifying. He's like a demented sloth from Goonies that they like find in the basement. He is terrifying.
Well, and so
his smile and his eyes all big the whole time.
Major simp.
And you know, there's the earlier conversation when the mom tells this story about him fainting and something happening, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then when he comes up at the very end,
He's
oh
terrifying
my
looking.
gosh, yeah, with those eyes, because it's so dark in that room.
Yeah, that guy did a great job.
Yeah,
He
really
was
did.
terrifying.
I think that actually comes out a little bit of his monster movie background.
Yeah, yeah, he did a good job.
The one thing I was going to say, which I didn't know until today, the guy who played the rich father, husband, whatever, he died in the back seat of a car in Seoul a couple years ago, and questionably whether it was a drug overdose or not, who knows? But he was found dead in the back seat of a car.
I was going to say that
Like Bon Scott,
had recalled, like who?
the AC/DC lead singer. I think he died. in the
That I
backseat of a
remember
car.
had seen something about that, which is crazy. Obviously, because this is not that long before.
That's
that.
crazy. That is
Considering the whole thing in the movie about the back
especially
seat
the back seat.
also.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character?
Got it right there. Nicely done, Nick.
I think the daughter is awesome.
I also like
I
the
think
daughter
I
a
was
lot.
gonna
She was
say
cool.
daughter. She was the best at like acting and everything. She was.
Yeah.
But I really he's not in it a ton, but the creepy sloth,
basement
yeah,
dweller.
the basement dweller is just so entertaining.
Something that I found a little interesting.
I also like the mom when she kicks the other maid down the steps. She was great.
The
Within
mom
this-
was really good.
Mom was great.
Yeah, she was awesome.
It seems like within this family that the mastermind behind all of these things is the son.
It's definitely the son.
It's definitely the son. He's giving acting lessons.
I was
going to
say he has the script for his dad when they're
and
trying
he's
to
the
go
one
through stuff.
he survives. So
He does
really,
survive.
he just lives.
I do think the
another day
rich
to do
mom
this.
is also funny.
She is hilarious.
She's
great.
very good at being an absolute moron. Like,
She is
just a ditzy,
She is an idiot.
terrifying idiot.
I
She's
love
really
how-
good at it.
They did a really good job of introducing her too. It's like she's a little simple,
Yeah.
and then that's when you're like, oh, okay,
Uh-huh.
that's how they can get away with all of this.
Yeah, and they do.
And
Phenomenal.
all of this we're talking about comes from that screenplay.
Yeah.
Before it comes from the actors, it comes from the screenplay. And it's no wonder this thing won Best Picture, he
Mhm.
won Best Director and Best Screenplay. And not a big surprise, it won Best International Film. But
I was going to ask you if you had off the top of your head what else. I was curious if it would have won anything for cinematography as well, just because it was really pretty.
it didn't get, it was up against a whole bunch of big Hollywood movies. And like 1917, I believe, got the cinematography.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I remember that night when it started winning, and it was like, oh, this is cool because
was
I loved
rooting
it.
for it.
I was
yeah.
too, and then it was like, wow,
But I didn't
won
think it would. Yeah.
best screenplay, and then it was like, wait, he won best director. Like at that point, it's like, I think
they're
he's
gonna
going to
win
win
it.
the whole
Yeah.
thing, and sure enough, it did. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad it did. That was great.
great movie, Nick. Excellent choice.
Thank you.
I'm happy that you finally got to see it. It's
Yeah.
very exciting.
I'm also happy I finally got to see it. John couldn't ruin it because when I picked Godzilla, he watched it in English.
Watched it in
doing?
English,
English.
man.
you
Come
can't
on.
watch this thing in English.
I don't watch anything dubbed if I don't have to.
Yeah, he
Same.
goes. But it reminds me
I
of when
thought
was a
about it. I
kid."
thought about it when I was watching Parasite. Like sometime in the middle of the movie, I thought like this would be so much worse if I couldn't hear the actual inflection of the actors.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Watching a movie dubbed is awful.
It's stupid.
I won't do
Really?
I will not do it, you know. Now I watch all the foreign language films, a lot of them I see in the theater before they're released. I just
Mhm. Not to
but
brag.
but even when but even like when it's on Netflix, when it's one of their productions and they give you a dubbed option,
Watching the original language.
dubbed like this. I assume this Amelia Perez that's up on there now that's getting all the attention is you can see in a dubbed version as well as in the real version. You got to watch it. I mean, the subtitles are not a big deal if you just watch a movie with subtitles and you'll be fine.
I
It's
remember
5 minutes in, you
just
forget
get used to it, yeah.
forget your reading.
when we watched All Quiet on the Western Front.
Good movie.
Great movie. It actually annoyed me that when I first hit play, it was the
In
dubbed
English?
version.
Netflix started doing. I don't know if you watched that on net. Was that?
I,
yeah,
yeah,
it was
it's
a
a
Netflix
Netflix
movie.
exclusive.
That Netflix started doing that. Just
You have to watch that
automatically,
in German. It's
automatically
so
doing the dub, which is so dumb.
It's so
what was the
dumb.
show you loved?
Dark. Because you
Dark.
started watching it and you were like, yeah, it was in
I
English.
can't
this
get over
sucks.
this
Yeah.
English crap, and you're like, oh, you can change it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't know that.
I think I watched the first episode of Squid Game dubbed, because I didn't realize
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the more I paid attention, I'm like, wait.
I don't know
a
why
minute.
they do that.
Yeah. It's
It's
stupid.
annoying.